With the Gundam Card Games starter decks finally releasing, the question is, what should you play? The release of Gundam comes with 4 starter decks in all varying color combinations. STO1 Heroic Beginnings in blue and white, STO2 Wings of Advance in green and blue, STO3 Zeon Rush in red and green, and finally STO4 Seed Strike in white and red. All of them vary in thematics and playstyle, and some of them are stronger out of the box than others. I'll preface by saying that the starter deck event is more casual than anything else, and the pricing is just more participation stuff. So if you care for those, I will go over the power rankings of where I think every deck stands and what their strengths or weaknesses are, but at the end of the day, I really do think you should be picking the one of which the thematics or suits are more to your liking, or the playstyle that speaks most to you. Kicking it off with STO1 features Amuro Ray and the RX-78 alongside Soletta Mercury and Ariel. While in the beta format, the blue-white combination leaned into control strategies, this deck primarily focuses on tempo mid-range. The featured pilots link with many units in the deck, and have additional tools to slow down the opponent while continuing to apply pressure. The deck features one of the best commands in the game, Unforeseen Incident, giving you the ability to flip a trade with your opponent into your units maintaining on board. Going into a late game, you also have access to White Base, arguably the best base in the game at this time, allowing you to keep pushing out bodies every turn without costing cards in hand. With the full release of Gundam just on the horizon, we are doing a ton of coverage to get you guys ready for the Set 1 format, whether that be Gen Con or Card Fest or any other future events. So if any of that excites you, subscribe button down there would be much appreciated. Shifting over to STO2, this deck features a blend of the Operation Meteor team alongside the opposing Oz organization. The strategy across both of these colors isn't super cohesive, but they do present some of the best standalone units in the game. Wing Gundam is the strongest unit across the STs and is nearly unremovable without a ton of resources from the opponent. On the flip side, in the late game, Tallgeese presents an absurd amount of pressure and can net you additional draws if piloted by Zex. While a fully fledged wing deck focuses on the ramp aspects of green, it's hard to really say that this is what the deck is focused around given how little ramp and payoff there truly is. So the best route for this deck is just playing a mid-range game, knowing that you'll have the best late game than any other starter. Use your cheap blockers and powerful siege ploy to stall until you can get into that late game position to take over the game. On the aggressive side of things, we have STO3 Zeon Strike. As with most aggro decks, playing cheap idiots early on and swing will sometimes just get there against any opponent. In that regard, you have to respect the deck. Alternatively, the consistency of the payoff cards of the deck leave to be desired, especially when Char only links with the LR of the deck, which gives you only 2 targets. While Full Frontal does give +2/+2, it's quite late in the game for an aggro deck, and the unit that Char links with is more of a mid-range piece that wants to die instead of being a late game closer. As such, you're stuck in this awkward position of just hoping the Weenie Rush gets there, especially when we have horrendous cards in the deck like the Blue Giant. The saving grace of the deck is that Close Combat is a fantastic command to help you trade up with your weaker units, hopefully opening the way for a win. Finally, we have STO4's Seed Strike. On its face, this is one of the more awkward starter decks out of the box. The primary idea of the deck is to utilize white stall cards to help you get into a mid-range where the red cards can board control and push for a win. We already know from the beta that Ailstrike is a phenomenal card, and Kira is arguably one of the best pilots, having a fantastic ability to power down cards regardless of what he's piloting. Alternatively, we go from the best generic things the deck does to some of the more closed off components of the deck when we look at the Zaf side. Aegis Gundam deals 3 damage to level 5 or higher units, which in an endgame is definitely strong, but is useless against 85% of the cards in every ST. And Atherin is nothing but a vanilla unless specifically linking. That said, the rest of the deck is shored up by great cards in Hawk of Endymion and Archangel to make strong pushes while being able to protect your units on the follow-up. As far as power ranking goes, I would say my loose position on the decks out of the box would be STO1 at the top due to its consistency in game plan and access to board control options across the curve and tons of link options. Then I would say STO2. While you can fumble on the early game and lose at times, your end game is king. There's an argument to be made that STO2 is the best, but because there is a little bit of sometimes you just don't see the boss monsters necessary to be able to close out the game, I will concede that there are some positions in which STO1 is probably just more consistent in being able to execute its game plan. Then on the third slot, we have STO4. Kira and Ale really do just be those guys and are probably enough to be able to carry a strategy, especially since the starter deck comes with 4 Kira, and Kira is just can jump into any pilot and turn your typical 1-for-1 trades into hopefully 2-for-1s on your side. Then finally at the bottom we have STO3. The deck just suffers greatly if the opponent knows what's going on, how to mitigate early aggro, and then your late game kind of stumbles. Granted, you will score some aggro wins out of nowhere because aggro decks will just be doing that from time to time. As a final bonus, if you get your hand on 2 starter decks and you're just kind of looking for a way to jam 2 of those and optimize them as much as you can before we get into the full GDO1 format, I've gone ahead and put together some builds using exclusively their ST cards. Not much explanation here than just maxing out on the best cards and cutting out on some of the situational cards that tend to hurt us more than they can help. I'm looking at you, Blue Giant. That said, my recommendations is definitely to mix and match cards across starter decks for the best results. In this game, you have the flexibility of deck building, which is really exciting, so you can take a half of one starter deck, a half of another starter deck, jam them together, and you have a whole new strategy. And I really recommend that you build with that in mind, while also looking at GD01 to kind of get an idea of what specifically you'd like to play, as in a couple of weeks, we'll be in a full-fleshed format. Which starter deck are you guys looking forward to picking up the most? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll get you guys on the next one.